That's what I got to say. Welcome to the Rant Network. My name's Stuart Brisgell. That's David Solomon as we dive into unfiltered issues spanning news, pop culture, politics, and beyond. And we're not talking Star Trek beyond. We're talking about the 23rd century. Whether we're discussing absurdities about today's delivering society's deep state seated issues, we're here to keep it real. Buckle up, Buttercup, because we're going to amplify our voice today. David, as I sit here in South Florida in a beautiful 77-degree weather with a full moon rising, which is actually really setting as I'm driving to my office this morning, I begin to think about the utter absurdity that's literally out of the radical communist playbook. You know, how in the world do you break down a society? Well, civil discourse, political discourse, religious discourse, education discourse, and I can go on and on and on. We got all of the above going on. And you know what? It's so turned on its head, as we discussed many moons ago, about how we're so involved with the 0.01% person's issues and not the global issue, not even the regional issue. And this is continuing to exacerbate throughout the entire world. David, when you start blaming the democratic society for doing democratic things, man, things are twisted. David, what?
Stuart, I got to tell you something. This has been a period of time in which I cannot begin to explain how sick I am.
Are
This
you
morning,
sick?
I wake up to hear that once again here in Montreal, we've had one more Jewish building with a Molotov cocktail thrown at it. A high school defaced with graffiti. I've seen that too many times. That I didn't even bother with. But again, another Molotov cocktail thrown at a Jewish institution. How about a high school in New York City in which his pro-Israel teacher gets attacked by students? A riot, they call it. Mayor Adams in New York condemning it, just calling it terror. Doesn't matter. You got plenty of these mob scenes happening all over the United States. The Macy's parade, Stuart, on Thursday, disrupted by pro-Palestinian mob. Then you've got another one happening with the Black Friday shopping. You got bridges blocked off. You got protests all over. You got threats to Hollywood stars and to athletes. Miss Universe judge hit with death threats after debate against Palestinian activists saying you will be killed. Actress Juliana Margulies is being slammed by so many, her and other Hollywood actresses. There are plenty of anti-Semitic actions that occur, and yet very, very silent by the politicians and the media. And then last night, you hear of 3 Palestinian students shot in Vermont. My first reaction, Stuart, was, oh shit, they're going to come after us even more now. And the reason I say this is that the notion of an eye for an eye, which I know is not a Christian value, but it is something that is inculcated into other cultures. You know, Stuart, the Jewish Federations of America immediately put out a statement condemning the violence. Now, let me just say this again. This happened last night, and immediately the Jewish Federations of America put out a statement condemning the violence, that they don't agree with this at all, and they condemn all forms of violence. Where were these kind of remarks on October the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th? Nowhere.
Not even the Qataris are negotiating peace have said, only thing actually Qataris have said is that the Israelis brought it onto themselves. And they're the ones brokering the peace deal and financing Hamas. I mean, talk about letting the wolf in the hen house. I mean, the world has gone upside down and ridiculously stupid. And, you know, a lot of people like to characterize my tone and meter as a very progressive tone to the right. And it really isn't. I'm just telling you the way I feel unfiltered. You know, 3 people got killed. I
No,
think
no, no, they weren't killed. They were not killed. Excuse me.
shot.
Shot. Please.
Yeah. You know what? Listen, Bernie Sanders should come out immediately and say, why is there so much violence in my warm, loving, free state of Vermont?
Oh, that's easy.
Their nationalities, why in this instance are they made public and others we're not telling you? Listen, is it a hate crime? Is it not a hate crime? I don't think anyone knows. But anyone who takes a gun and starts shooting at people is a sick individual, unless they're shooting back at them. You know, that's something different. But at the end of the day, there's no excuse at all. And yes, condemning violence is a great thing to do, David, when not presented with a violent situation, right? And we don't even know what happened, but we're already condemning people. We're already going, oh shit, like you said, David, who are they going to go after in return? Ayin tachanayin, eye for an eye. We already are trading 3 Arabs, for 1 Jew. I mean, what's next? Are we, I think that maybe everyone in the world should start holding on to their Jews. We're worth more money. David, alive or
You know what, Stuart? Stuart, and you got to thank the media for helping to perpetuate the hate and the lies. And I'll give you a couple of examples here at home, my home. CBC, the absolutely disgusting organization, is giving credence to the claim that Israel's murdering Palestinian and Lebanese journalists intentionally. There's no fact behind it, but let's just report that crime. This notion to continue to say that there are now over 13,000, dead, and we keep saying, like, this is Hamas reporting it, and Joe Biden reportedly this morning said something to the effect of, "Oh no, I'm not going to question the numbers." Why not? If you continue to let university papers and you let other media houses continue to spew the hate, spin the stories. Stuart, I don't know if you know, but there were about 100,000 people walking through London in a pro-Israel, if you call it, or an anti-Semitism march. Try to bring attention to anti-Semitism and to denounce it and whatever. And the BBC said no reporter should cover it.
Yeah.
When Sky News refused to apologize still for its terrible reporting, claiming that Israel doesn't value Palestinian lives, file. And this is why when you get this kind of reaction, and I think the best line is, who's being blamed? I heard over the weekend, Donald Trump. Donald Trump is, Chris Christie has blamed Donald Trump for the increase in anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. Ladies and gentlemen, this is just wrong.
Well, the BBC refuses to call Hamas a terrorist organization.
But I'm saying that listen to what's going on. We're not solving the problem here. We're just conflagrating. We're making it worse. The 3 that were shot in Vermont, don't know who they are, don't know why they were targeted, but again, what's going to happen. They're going to blame Jews for it, and they're going to have another excuse to go after, because facts don't matter. If you create a situation in this world, Stuart, where facts do not matter, you have basically let the inmates run the asylum. You're creating an anarchy to no end. And if any politician, whether it's Bernie Sanders or Donald Trump or whomever, who thinks this is good and this is the right way to create a country, no. It's not the right way. You're just going to push people to the edge. And this is wrong. We condemn violence. Stuart and I have never, ever, ever, ever said we condone violence. But when Stuart says, hey, later people are now looking to buy guns to defend themselves, you know what, folks? This is a scary time. This is a scary time.
Well, they have a suspect arrested in this. His name is Jason Eaton. Don't know much about Jason. They're not really saying that much. But Mr. Eaton, is the one who's been charged or will be charged, it seems like, for, perpetrating this. Two of the three victims were wearing keffiyehs, keffiyehs. Again, when we figure out what Mr. Eaton's background is, I guess we'll know a little more. I don't
But
really.
it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant, Stuart. Today we should be celebrating, at least quote unquote, the release of some of the Israeli hostages. Instead, what the world wants to do is to twist the stories, for example, and focus on a hate crime. It's a terrible hate crime. I'm going to call it a hate crime. But it's like enough is enough is enough is enough. You see what happens. All these so-called protesters who think that violence makes sense. Violence breeds violence. You wanted to escalate it. You deface property. You burn down property. You call for death to people. You riot in the streets. You think that this was going to not escalate? And if you think, and the sad thing is, I believe there are people today who are happy about this. I believe in my heart that the left is ecstatic because now they can ramp up their own crap, that they can make it worse. I mean, there's just no common sense. To show you the level of stupidity, they're interviewing these so-called protesters and asking them, what does the word intifada mean? They don't know. They're asking people, where is Israel? We don't know. People are doing things. They don't even know that they're creating this disaster because they think this is the right thing to do.
Oh, yes. From the river to the sea, the Israeli flag is all you will see. They don't even know what the definition of where from the river. They don't even know the river. You got some guys in like the Northeast, they think of the St. Lawrence River. They don't know what the Jordan River is. They don't know what the sea is. They think of the St. Lawrence Seaway. They're morons. And it's very frustrating.
Stuart, the saddest part over the weekend is I asked a couple of American kids, they're in their early 20s, what do you know about 9/11? And the answer is, I don't know anything. We didn't learn it in school. And this is the problem right now. We don't understand each other. If when we sit here, in Quebec, Stuart, we used to have this, we still do, this kind of like interculture class that they give in high school. But it's not a government curriculum. It's made up by a teacher to try to teach you about cross cultures. And it's a mess. If you're leaving it to teachers to decide on their own what message you want to deliver about Islam, Judaism, Christianity, Buddhism, oh my God, you're just going to get someone's personal opinion.
I remember taking that humanities class. It was mandatory. You couldn't graduate high school without it. And it's something that I think is missing from the world today.
It's missing. We're not teaching the kids. They don't understand. And as a result, what ends up happening is people use their biases, and look what happens. I tell you what happened. What's going on today, Stuart, in all of this hate that happened in Vermont. Listen, I'm sorry to tell you this, but this is what you've created. This is what has been created. You have not focused on educating people properly. You permit the media, politicians. I mean, you still have Democratic politicians screaming for a complete ceasefire and to demand that Israel aid be, under certain conditions. And you still continue to tell people that, Israel is still at fault and the Jews are still at fault and whatever. And you've perpetuated hate. And to sit here and to say, and sorry, Chris Christie, when you sit here and you say that it's Donald Trump's fault, it's not Donald Trump's fault. Please. Obama was right about one thing, Stuart.
You all have blood on your hands. Okay? You all have blood on your hands.
I won't argue with you. But David, you know what time that means?
That's it.
It's wrap up. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. This is the Rant Network. We trust you found some valuable insight in today's dialogue. Catch us every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, noon Eastern. Engage us on social media. Share us your perspectives. PM us. We genuinely value your feedback. Until our next episode, keep the conversation and keep ranting.